Hey everyone, welcome to the workshop. We're glad to have you here today. We got a jam-packed full of content for the next hour and a half, and our 90 minutes. Well, that maybe sounds a little better than an hour and a half. Jared, I've got my co-pilot Jared on to funnel questions through as we have any going through. So you'll notice I'm looking over to the right here because I've got my the live stream over on this third monitor here. So there's a place on the right-hand side where you can ask questions, but there's also a place where you can make comments as well. So either one, go ahead and key those in. Jared's monitoring that. And Jared, you can just bring those up as people maybe ask questions. How does that sound?
That sounds good to me. Yep, audio and video looking good too on the stream, so we
Okay.
should be green lighted here for the stream.
All right. Well, we've got lots of stuff to go through today, so I'm going to get rocking and rolling here so we can get through the content. Just so you're aware, we've got 3 sessions. This session here is we're going to be talking about getting everything set up, everything ready to go. The next session, which would be next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard or Mountain Daylight Time, that will be we'll be covering opt-out pages and templates, and we'll be covering that in great detail. And then the last session, which would be a week from that, we're going to be getting into campaigns. And in those campaigns, we're going to show you the basic campaigns, and we're going to get into some really detailed campaign information like landing pages, and we're going to get into tracking website stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be covering over the next 3 weeks. So let's dive into it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the packages. So each one of you have a different package, I'm sure. Some of you will have the basic package that comes with ACT, and then some of you will have the advanced. I'm talking about packages, and I'm doing one slide ahead. First of all, when you click on the marketing automation on the navigation bar on the bottom left-hand side, if you get this screen, this AMA not activated, then you need to let us know, because some of you, especially with the basic, they don't always automatically turn that on. So if you click on that and you get this screen, what is ACT Marketing Automation, or something similar to that, other than what I'm going to show you when we get into this, reach out to us. And we'll just make sure we'll reach out to ACT, make sure it's activated. We'll need the domain that you want to have. So ours is corelogix.ca, so we let them know, and they set up our domain as corelogix.ca. So whatever that is. But if you get this screen when you click into there, then obviously you're not set up, and you'll need to reach out to us. Now, going into the packages. Sorry about that, one slide too early. The basic package, like I said, the basic package comes with it. And if it's not activated, just let us know. But there's the basic, select, complete, and advanced. Now, in my demo here, I'll be running the advanced. Some of you have the basic that comes with it. We're going to make sure that you're all covered in your different sections. And some of you will see, like the basic, you'll see what's in the select and the higher levels as well. And it's just for you to know. And when you start building your marketing practice up in your business to get to a certain level, then you can scale up if needed. All right, let's get through the setup. So let's go over to our next screen here. And we're going to go through a couple of different things in here. So first of all, we're going to click on Marketing Automation on the bottom left-hand corner. And if you don't get this screen or something similar to this, now mine has stuff in it. Yours, if it's brand new, you'll just have a couple of squares that'll get you started. But I've got tons of stuff in this. This is both my demo part as well as what I use for my live stuff. So in here, you should get a screen like this. And in this screen, you've got a bunch of buttons up at the top here. And some of you will have different things than others. If you're in basic, you won't have assets in there. You probably won't have web activity in there. You may not even have landing pages. I don't think you have landing pages for basic. But what we want to do is there's two things we want to set up first of all to get this thing started to be configured. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the admin drop-down menu here, and we're going to set up one thing, and then we're going to go through the setup. So the first thing we're going to go through is right over here, and we're going to click on account email domains. So you're going to click on that, and you're going to click go. Now, I've got quite a few here. I've got some test ones. I've got one for my Robillard domain, and I got one for the corelogix domain. And if you ever did want a second domain, you can purchase that from ACT. I've got a second domain here. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to set up what they call a DKIM record. And so in here, I'm just going to click on this one here. If you go over to actions, this is actually, it's not set up. You can see here, these two are set up enabled true. These ones are false, meaning they're not active. So I'm just going to go into this just so you can see what it looks like. So you'll see how this is set up. It's got what it is. Now I'm just going to bring up a overhead screen because you'll want to see what this looks like. And so this is what it should look like when you go in here. And you'll have your domain up here. You're going to have a reply to address here if you want to key that in. You've got the domain name as well, or the description and the domain are the same thing. And then what we're looking for is this, create DKIM. Now, when you click that, you're going to get a warning. It's going to say, once you create the DKIM record, you'll not be able to send out emails until your DNS is set up. Click below for more information, and then you can go click create, and that will create the DKIM record. So the first one here, you'll want to make sure that you're going to go create DKIM record. You're going to get the warning, and so you won't want to send out any emails until you've got this up. Why do we want to set up the DKIM record? The DKIM record is a piece of code that you put on your DNS server. Now, some of the terms I'm going to use are going to be a little over your head, and that's fine for some of you. All you'll need to do is you just know that you got to copy a piece of code, give it to the guy who's looking after your website. Bob's your uncle. So you're going to go create DKIM record, and then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to it's going to pop up with the DKIM information like this. So it's very similar to this one I've got when we were messing around where you're getting the DKIM record. And what you're going to do here is you're going to copy this information. You don't want to right mouse click because that won't actually right mouse click. You go Control-C, copy that, and then send that to your IT professional or your person that manages your web hosting, and they will paste it into the DNS server. So they'll go in, and it's a little piece of code that goes in there. Now, why do we want to have this set up? The reason we want to have this set up, let me just get rid of this. Let's go back out to admin. The reason we want to have this set up is that we want to be able to have the best inbox land rate as we can get. And this ensures that. So if we don't have this set up, and most ACT consultants don't know about this, and I happen to be on the beta team, so I was privy to a lot of things that probably most of them weren't privy to. And so what happens is if you don't set this up, you can send out emails, but a lot of people or a portion of your people will get their emails will go into their junk mail. And what it is it thinks that it's trying to spoof your email address, and so it throws it in the junk. This eliminates that spoofing that can be flagged as in your email. So once you put this DNS, it's basically putting this, once you put that in your server, it's basically flagging and saying, hey, this email's okay. It's not being spoofed. So when you get the email from the ACT Marketing Automation, you're all good to go and you don't have to worry about it. So that's the reason you want to have that DKIM record copied, put into your hosting server, or your DNS server, or your domain server, whatever you want to call it. Just give that to your either IT professional, like I said, or your webmaster, and they will take care of that. And then once you've got that in there, you're going to, let me go back in here really quick. Actually, I can show this on a screen here. Once they've set that up, you see this little verify DKIM right here on about the middle there. You're going to want to verify that DKIM record, and what that means is it's going to go, and once they put it in, because we want to make sure that they set it up properly. So if you click verify and it says can't verify, then you know that it's not working. So let me just go into mine, onto that one that's not set up, and we'll just show you, because this is important, because all the emails you send out, if we don't get this to verify and the DKIM record's working, you're not going to have the best results you can get. So if I go into here, because this is turned off, and I go verify DKIM, it's going to go, sorry, but we're unable to verify your DKIM for domain tests, swiftpage.com. So once it verifies, it'll say verified up here. And then once you know it's verified, then you're good to go, and you can start working from that. So that's the first step. Make sure ACT is up and running, or the ACT marketing automation is working. Second thing is you want to make sure your DKIM record is set up and configured. Once you've got those two, then we can dive into the rest of the components. So let's go back to admin. Now we have a My Account feature right here, or button. We also have the My Account right here as well. They both do the same thing. So get at each one wherever you want to get at. I'm going to click on My Account, and this just pulls up my account information. Now you're going to have, on yours, you may see something different. You'll see here, because I'm running the advanced one, you'll see here I can go and do email subscriptions. These are the alerts, or the notifications, you will. Then we've got country geography, state geography, and then subscription information. So you can go through, if you've got the higher end levels, you can go in and choose the countries you're going to shoot to, all of these different things. On yours may look like this. So for an example, the basic account looks like this. All right. And so you've got the subscription info and the email subscription. And then the advanced looks like this. And as you can see, mine is the same as the advanced, which is the ultimate. All right. All right, so let's go back. Let's move up to the top here, and we'll click on admin. Now you're going to see when I click on the admin, I've got a lot of selections here. We're not going to go through all of them. We're just going to go through a couple to get you up and going. Now you'll see my list here. I'm just going to show you what the basic and the select have. So the basic is a lot less. You'll see that,
Gary,
yeah.
can I just interrupt you for a sec?
Yeah.
We just had a question just before you moved on to the
Yeah.
differences between the different
Sure.
ACT marketing automations ones. So this was a question from Steven. It's a good question. I was wondering if you can give examples of why he might want multiple domains entered, just because you have multiple websites, ? Or is it to add a landing page domain?
No, it's when you have separate domains, you're sending out from a different domain. So in my case, I've got two domains. I got corelogix.ca and robillard.net. And what that means is, if I send out an email from Corelogix, but I want it to look like it's coming from robillard.net, I can't do that unless I have a second domain. So then what I can do is I can actually set up the second domain, and when I send out the email, it's coming from robillard.net. And so that's the reason you want to have want to have two domains. Very rarely will you need to do two domains unless you've got two distinct organizations, or maybe not even organizations, but two websites that are totally separate and you want to keep them separate and you want to have emails coming from one website and one coming from another website or domain, if you will, that's where you'd want to have that. Very few people would need to have that. And it is a $600 touch if you want to do that per year. So you'll really want to have a reason why you want to have a second domain. Like we do have clients that represent multiple companies, and so they will purchase separate domains for each company, so that when they're doing email blasts on behalf of those companies, they can actually send out from those from those domains as opposed to from their own. So if I only had the CoreLogix and I wanted to send something out from Robillard, I don't want to get confused and saying, what's this email coming in from Gary at CoreLogix, not Gary at Robillard, and maybe they don't have even know about CoreLogix Corporation. So that's kind of the reason. Hopefully that answers your question, Stephen. All right, so going back to what I was going through here, on the basic, you'll see I've got a lot less, if you look at the list here, of what you've got with the basic versus what I've got, and then what the select has. You'll see that I've got more things that I can do. Like I've got some things in mind that even the select doesn't have. Actually, not a heck of a lot. Just one maybe. Anyways, you can see that you'll have a different selection in there. So if you don't have all of these in your list, don't worry about it. So we've got addresses, configurations. I'm going to go through just a couple of these. The first one was the setting up the My Account. So we've done that already. That's already been set up. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to set up, let's see here, account folders. This is a good one because when you go to account folders, when you start setting up all your campaigns and stuff, you'll want to organize them. And this is a great way of setting up organized. So this is kind of a sample here. You've got demos, and all you have to do is you can click on campaigns, right mouse click, and go new folder. And it'll put a new folder there, and I can right mouse click on there or double click on there, and I can just put in there test, and then that will save that folder. I can drag and drop them, so now it's underneath webinar reminders. And once you've got your structure set up of how you would like to organize your campaigns, then when you create a campaign, you can decide which folder you want that campaign to go into when you go to create the campaign. So instead of having one great big long folder with everything in it, you can actually put them in the folders that you want and have them organized. So for an example, let me just go out of this. I'll leave test in there so you'll see that it comes up. But if I go to campaigns, you'll see there's my test folder. And if I want to go into my demos, there's my demos, sales target, web structure, invitations, and you can see I've got a few little things in there. So that's why this is kind of handy. And you've got two ways of viewing this. One is in this view here, and the other is in the list view. So the grid view and the list view. So we're going to go to this one here. You'll actually, let's take out the search that I had in there. And this will list everything in order downwards that I may have. And then you'll want to, and let's just see here. You'll see it's got the folder, so I can select the folder from here. So I want to see the sales folder or the demos folder and apply. And then that will list them in. So you choose the one that works for you. I personally like the grid view because then I have my folders right on the right-hand side. I don't have to go over, it's less steps for me to go through that. So you've got two different views here. Every time you're using marketing automation, just look over on the right-hand side because you're going to have this actions feature that allows you to get to a bunch of different things like the list view. And it's got other ones that you can experiment with like calendar and dashboard and new campaign or copy campaign, depending upon which one you're on. These items will change. So if I'm on templates, I'll have different things on templates. and it has a image library as well, which you can go in and adjust, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. Right now, we're just wanting to get you set up and ready to go. All right, so the two things you're going to want to do, you're going to set up the My account, make sure that's done, and you're going to set up the reason why you're going to set up the My account is because we want to make sure that all of this information is correct. And then the last one we're going to go to is going to be, let's go back over to admin. And the last one is account configuration. That's the other one we want to go to. Account configuration is where you're going to put your address and stuff. So in mine, I've got CoreLogix Corporation. Instead of putting the address in there, I just put in a little slogan. You should put your address in there. I was just messing around. Calgary, Alberta, and then you can put a Twitter or Facebook. I'm not sure why they've only put Twitter and Facebook. It would be nice to have LinkedIn and a couple of others, but unfortunately that's what they've done. This next two things are really important. Make sure by default the ACT branded footer, this comes in as on. And what that does is that every time you send an email out, down at the bottom, it'll have the ACT logo and it'll say powered by ACT. Turn that off. I mean, you don't need to advertise for ACT. Turn that off. So these two should be off. If they're not off, make sure they're off. And then once you've done that, make sure you go over to Actions and press Save. And don't just assume that when you make an adjustment that it's saved. Look around, especially over here, to make sure that there's a save button someplace so that it keeps your information. You don't have to worry about the stuff at the bottom. We can go into that in maybe a later one. But those are the two things that you want to get up. Now, once you've got those things set up, your DKIM set up, you've looked at your My account, and then you've set up your account configuration, we're ready to go into the next step here. All right, let's go into contacts. Let's go up here to tools now. And you can see I'm using my advisor template. It's my kind of go-to template when I'm doing demos. You're going to want to go to tools, and you're going to go down to manage users. Now, when you're in manage users, you need to set people up for access to ACT Marketing Automation. They don't default have access to it other than an admin user. So every admin user, so if I go into my account in here, you'll see I've access to everything. So anything that's available, I've access to everything because I'm an admin user. If you're not an admin user, like let's take Tanya here, and you go into hers, you'll get to this section where these are the available permissions, and you'll see all the ACT Marketing Automation is on the left-hand side. So if you want that person to have access to ACT Marketing Automation, you will need to decide what components. Maybe you only want her to have access to landing pages and landing page results, maybe just templates, maybe campaigns. You can choose what your person that you're setting up has access to. And so all you'll have to do is you can double click, or you can click on each one and just press the arrow to the right, and that will add it over. So I can add that over. I'll add that back. And let's just say all we want her to do is have campaigns. I'm just going to double click, and I want her to have templates and the campaign dashboard. Let's just give her those three things. Now you'll see there's one more thing that I should let you know about. Web API. I recommend giving that to everybody. And this is the reason for that is if they're using any mobile device, and I know this has nothing to do with what we're doing with ACT Marketing Automation, but if they're having problems with some kind of marketing device, I always give everybody this web API access. It just makes things a little bit cleaner, just in case they're setting up a ACT Companion as a mobile device or what have you. Then they'll have access to that. So just make sure that's done. All right, so we've got all our ACT Marketing Automation. You choose the ones they want. I'm just going to give her everything here. Landing pages, the whole 9 yards. And then when you're done, just press finish, and now they'll have access to everything. All right. All right, so now that we've set that up, the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure we have all the fields that we need. And there's a ton of fields that we can access in here. But we want to make sure that there's 5 specific fields for the ACT marketing automation we want. We want a Castle consent field. Okay, we've got that. And that's where they're going to, sorry, wrong one. Castle consent, this one here. So they're either opted in, opted out. You can come up with any naming convention you want, but opted in, opted out is my go-to. You can use whatever terminology you and your company want to use, but you want to have a Castle consent one, and then you're going to have the next one you're going to want is Castle source. Well, where did you get the source of the Castle consent? And that's going to be, let me just pull up this. I don't know why I got implied in there twice. Email, implied consent, mail, phone, and verbal. You could have a sign up page, a landing page. You could have whatever you want to have in there and have this plugged in. And all this does is covers your butt if anything comes up that somebody calls you to task and says, hey, gets a hold of the Canadian anti-spam legislation board and says, hey, these guys are doing, you've got your butt covered. Implied consent, let me just talk about that for a second. Implied consent means that you've been emailing them all the time with different, just maybe Outlook emails, but you have been connecting with them on a regular basis. Now, the gray area with implied consent, and that usually only is valid for clients or customers. It's not so much for prospects. So if you've got prospects or other people in there, you'll want to get the consent to do this. You can send out an email that allows you to give consent. We won't be covering that in this particular session, but you're going to want to get some sort of consents for sending them out. So typically the gray area is 6 months to a year. Can you just assume that you can send out emails to them? You'll want to be careful. Some people say, hey, if it's over a year, then I'll ask for consent. So choose wisely. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you any advice on this. So I'm just giving you, what you should do to track it. And so this way you're tracking it. You could even put a date field if you want when you got the approval to do this or the source. You could even do that if you wish to. I personally don't, but that's not something out of the realm of things you could do. Then email verification. And email verification basically is when we're using a third-party service to validate emails. So when you're sending out emails, you want to make sure that your database is healthy or your domain name is healthy. And what I mean by that is you don't want to get blacklisted. And so, all right. So we want to make sure that we don't get blacklisted. And so a way of doing that is, and blacklisted is the wrong term, because blacklisted is when you get blacklisted from a specific mail server. And this is more like domain health in the way of describing it. It's more like your domain health. So if you went and sent an email out to 1,000 people and 500 of them bounced, your domain health is just going to turf. ACT is going to reach out to you and say, hey, what the heck are you doing? Don't you know who your database is? And they will give you a warning. I'm getting alerts here, but I don't know where they're coming from. And so you're going to get a warning. So what we want to do is when you send an email out, you want to have the least amount of bounces as possible or gone to invalids, that sort of thing. And so the best way to do that is use a third party to get your email verification. And it's really simple to do. We're going to go through that today. And we're going to show you how to do this. And you're getting a free software to be able to accomplish this. And this will help you to validate those emails. And it'll tell you whether they're good or not good. and it's going to give you a good response when you go to try to send your email blasts out. Now, the last one is called email status. And email status now is going to be a field that we're going to create. We don't have it in here in this database, and we're going to create this field. And what this does is when you send an email out, all right, so down here, if this was to bounce, if this said email verification bounced, that's coming from a third party just saying, hey, we checked it out and it bounced. But if we send an email campaign out through Act and it bounces through the marketing automation and it bounces, this may say it's working okay, but then that one may say it bounced. Or they may opt out and say, hey, I don't want to be part of this anymore. We need to be able to capture that. And so email status is a status field that when you send out your campaigns, if somebody opts out or the email bounces, it flags it in the status field. And then that way we can eliminate people that it actually bounced or opted out and not send out email campaigns to them in the future. And we can also find out the ones that bounced. We can go through and find out if they got a new email address. So we can do a little bit of data cleanup by doing that. All right. So one more thing I want to show you before we actually go any further is I want to show you. We're going to set this up in just a second here. All right. Let me just get up there. Any questions, Jared, so far?
No, not from the chat, but I got a question. So I guess can you be marked as like a spammer if your domain health gets too bad and stuff like that? Is that something that happens? I'm fairly new to e-marketing as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, no. The spammer more comes from if you don't have a clean list that you're emailing out to. That's where
oh, okay.
the spammer. So people will get lists and they won't verify the list. They'll use some odd domain. They don't care if it gets locked down, and they send it off trying to get people to either buy something or subscribe to something or what have you. So that's typically what it is. The domain health just gives you. It's more of a reputation than anything else. So you want to have a good reputation. I can send. What I'll do is I'll add to this in this list. I'm going to send you some documentation and stuff like that for this session. I'll send you some best practices. I do have some documents that will talk about best practices, and I'll make sure everybody gets those when that goes out. And then you'll be able to have a list of that. But the domain health is, it's an important thing to do, and the more you can kind of manage your database, the better. And that's different than somebody, there is a place in there where people can complain, and we'll talk about that when we get to there, but we won't show that now. Now, the next thing I want to show you is how to set up a Gmail account if you haven't got a Gmail account. And now, you probably have a Gmail account, but you want to set up a test Gmail account. And here's the reason why. When you're setting up your campaigns, it's always good to run a test when you're experimenting, and setting up a test Gmail account is the perfect way to do this. So you can see over here, I'm already logged in on my Gmail account here, my CLX CRM. That's my test account that I use for just testing stuff out. But if I wanted to get another one, I'm just going to go over here and go add another account. And I'm going to go create account down here. And we'll just do it for myself. And I'm just going to call this corelogix testing. All right. And so now what I want to do is I want to give it a name that I want to have. So I'm just going to go corelogix and just see if that comes up. So I'm just going to click into password here, and it says, no, that's already taken. Okay, so how about we just go corelogix test. Keep it real simple. And that one's valid, so I can use corelogix test. So I could use testing, come up with something that you can use to test, and I'll show you why here in a second. So we're just going to go over here. We're just going to go. put in a password, and go next. Oh, we thought we did. All right, so let's go corelogix test at gmail.com. And next. Why is this not wanting to work? I'm probably keying in the wrong thing. You're serious? Come on. Oh, it's wanting me to put symbols and stuff. Okay.
Got to have a real secure password
Oh
now. Got
man,
to
I'm
have a
telling you, you
character
can't
and a
have.
number, special
Yeah,
character, all these things now. There's all these caveats to your passwords that have to
yeah.
be super secure. All right. Oh,
Something
still
went
giving
wrong.
issues.
Sorry. Try again. Next. Anyways, just go through that. I'm not. I'm not going to go through it.
Yeah,
You'll
it's all good.
just go through what I just did, and then you can save your password. But that's basically what you want to do. And then when you're in there, let's go back. Let's just cancel out of that goofy thing. Go back into here, and then you can click on the little. I don't even know what you call this Google Apps button here, I guess. And then you can go down to your Gmail account, and you can see in my Gmail account, I'll have some stuff in here. And so you can see I did a test here, and here's the one I sent out for the e-marketing. So I just sent out a blast, and you can test it out that way. So that's what you want to do, is set up a Gmail account. Now here's the reason why. So I'm going to pull up a group, and you'll see the emails that I've set up. I've set up a test AMA group. And look at the email addresses in here. I don't know. Can you see that, Jared? It's a little small on the screen.
Yeah, I can see them.
Okay,
It's hard to read, but you can still see all the CLX, CRM,
yeah.
plus Matthews, all these different
Yeah.
ones,
So what you're going to
starting with
do?
CLX,
Yeah.
CRM.
Let me just add something to my screen here. Let's put in. Are you serious? All right, let's try this again. And that. All right. So I just did this really quickly. So remember, I tried to set up the domain corelogix test at gmail.com. All you have to do is you can set up fictitious people in there, add the plus sign and the name of the person at gmail.com, and it'll all go to the same inbox. So you could use, whoops, there we are. So you could use that to be able to do a bunch of testing. So you can see over here on mine, I've got CLX, CRM plus Fred, plus Tanya, plus Richard, plus Matthew, and the list goes on. So I can have a list of people in there. I just create a few test contacts in there, add that, and then when I send out an email blast to them, they all go into my one inbox on my Gmail box, and then I can see what's going on there and just make sure everything is just the way I want it. You don't have to have as many as I've got here, but just give you an idea that you can set up 4 or 5 or 6, whatever you want, and just make sure you use the plus after what your normal one is. So if it's corelogix at gmail.com, just add the plus, the name that you want to use, and just make sure they're different names, and you're good to go. All right. So hopefully that's been helpful so far. Now we're going to drill into the next part. So this was the setup. Any questions on setup before I move to the next component that we're going to go through? So just add your questions on the right hand side there. Jared's
Yeah,
monitoring.
there's a chat where you could put it in, or there's another thing you can click and you can actually press add question or ask questions, and you can type it all out. So there's a couple options
Yeah.
where you can either chat and put it in the chat, or there's an actual question section. Either one we'll see and
Yeah.
respond to it, whichever one works best for you.
Now, I'm not going through all the setup features in here. So when I go into the marketing automation and we go into admin and you have all of these, I'm not going through all of these. If we have time at the end, then I'll go through a few more of these. But I wanted you to just get the basics so that you can get this up and running, because really going to spend most of your time creating stuff, right? To send out emails. All right. So the next thing you want to do, and it doesn't matter if you're just a light user of the marketing automation or you're going to be a heavy user of the marketing automation. This next part is really important. And for those who don't do this, you're just shooting from the hip, and you really need to spend a little bit of time on this. You don't have to spend a lot. Honestly, you don't have to spend a lot, but you do need to spend a little bit of time. And that is creating a plan. And you can create a plan in I'm going to show you 4 different ways that you can create a plan. The easiest one is create an Excel spreadsheet. Just create an Excel spreadsheet. Basically, you're going to tell yourself when you're going to do things. And it's more of a planning sheet. And the planning sheet is more of an engagement thing, something that I'm going to do. Now, you could create activities and act, and if that's what you want to do, you can just create activities. I'm going to do this on this day and this on this day. Fine. But I like to have an overview. So these are ones that ACT sent to me. I'm happy to send you copies of all of this stuff. I'll send that off with the link tomorrow. But here's the marketing. Here's one for marketing activities. And so you can pick up different things, Q1, Q2. I don't really care for either of the ones I'm showing you here personally, but I would just have something basic that just said, the months, what I'm going to do and when. Let's see what this one looks like. This one's a little bit cleaner, but it doesn't give details. So if you want, come up with your own. I'll send you these as something as a starting point to be able to track what you're going to do. But basically, you're going to want to say, well, what I'm going to do in each month. What type of stuff? Am I going to do a webinar? And it can be anything to do with marketing, where you're going to use the marketing automation to maybe send out an invite, have people sign up, whatever it is. You can use this to kind of track it. The next thing I want to show you is, so I've done Excel. The next one is really, really simple. It's called OneNote. And now mine's not set up, but basically in OneNote, you can, I did set one up. I forgot that I set this up. So here's one I set up just as on the fly here yesterday. And so I just did a little marketing thing. And so I just took a snippet or a sample of what I was doing. Here's some tips, some things that I could use for ACT tips. And I can have a checklist of things that I want to cover. And then I can just create another checkbox just by typing in here. I can add stuff in. I'm not going to teach you how to use OneNote, but OneNote is a great way of keeping it simple. If I was going to choose Excel or OneNote, and probably 99% of you already have OneNote part of your Office 365 package, I'd be using OneNote over Excel. So this would be my one choice. I actually use OneNote as part of my marketing strategy, where I will come up with ideas and I'll put things down, and you can lay it out any way you want. Like seriously, any way you want. You can just put the months and what you're going to do in each month. Keep it really simple. As you can see here, I've been kind of tracking the casual Fridays and the content that I've put up. This is just a snippet. I don't have all my other ones in here because I don't want to give away what we're having coming down the tube here. But you get the idea of things you can do, or you can even do checkboxes, checklists. So that's another way of doing it, is using OneNote, and I highly recommend OneNote. Now, what I use with OneNote, I also use, and there's a cost to this one. So the first two are free. The second one, or the third one, is Mind Manager. And I'm a very visual person, so I like using Mind Manager because it gives me that visual look at things, and it's a mind mapping program. And so we'll just pull it up. So this is what I do. I'll come up with ideas in OneNote, and then in here, I will put together where and when I'm going to have them. Now, there's reasons I like to have this, and you can see I've got each month, and I've got over here, I've got events. So these are previous ones that I've done that I may want to repurpose and use again. I've also got types. So what kind of stuff will I be doing? Let me just move this up. So I've got blogs I can do, video blogs, campaigns, activities, events, lead capture, live streams, podcasts, social media, surveys. So anything to do with any kind of marketing, I've got different different components for that. And as a sample, you can do action items as well. You know, where you've got set up a group. These ones shouldn't be in here. I was messing around. And the nice thing about this is you can set up what they call map parts. So in map parts, I'll just quickly show you how this would work. So I can actually go in here and create a new folder. We'll call it corelogix. And in corelogix, I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do live streams. So I'm just going to pull that into there. So it'll have a live stream. I'm going to do a, let's see here. Let's just say we're going to do social media as another one. Add that in. And we're going to do webinar. Where's my webinar? There it is. And we'll do a webinar. But you can add all your components. Now, here's the power behind it. And I'm just giving you kind of a high-level view of this, and I'm going to show you why. So in each one of these, I've got components. The green just means it's done. And so if I was planning for July, I could say, okay, in July, I'm going to click on July, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to do a live stream. I'm going to do one webinar. Actually, I'll do 2 live streams. And I've got a social media campaign that I'm going to do. So I just click those in. Now I can name these different components. I'm going to just call that test 1. And this one here, test 2. And the power behind this is, okay, say on this social media one, I'm going to do the social media. I'm going to start it in July 4th, and it's going to go 4 work days. And the cost of this, because I got to hire somebody to do this, would be, let's say $500, or let's say $750. So you'll see what this will do is this will add $750 to there, $750 to here, and I can actually run a budget. And let's just say this live stream is going to cost me $200 because I have to buy some equipment to do this specific, whoops, wrong one, that's a resource, $200. So now this month it's going to cost me $950 to do my marketing and up here. So if you create a budget for yourself, and if you don't have a marketing budget, you should create one. It should be a percentage of your revenue, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but you can now track, where I'm spending. I've got a budget for each month, and I can see the overall budget for the year. And this is why I like this. In and above what I'm going to show you next. So now on my live stream, I can click in here and I can actually put in all the stuff I'm going to do for the live stream. What's my focus? Who's my target audience? What's the purpose? Am I educating, nurturing them? And what is the method? Am I sending this out through social media? How am I doing this? What's my subject line? What's my content? What's my call to action? And what's my desired outcome? And I can have that for my webinars, for my social media, everything that I do I can actually have a game plan of what I'm doing. So this is a lot more detailed than an Excel spreadsheet or even OneNote. So I use OneNote to come up with the ideas. I take those ideas and I put them in here. You don't have to do this. This program is not cheap. I forget, it's a subscription. It's a couple $100 a year, I think. And I'd be happy to give you this template if you'd like it. There is, I'll send you a download link for a trial. You can mess around with it if you wish. So these are the two that I use. I'm not going to save that. Are OneNote and marketing. Now there's a third one, OneNote and Mind Manager, sorry. There's another one that you could use, and this is called Notion. Now this one is also free, so the only paid one is really the Mind Manager, but I've used Mind Manager for years, and I just like all of the things that I can do. Oh, one thing I didn't show you, I could do a Gantt chart too, showing when everything is going. So if you're really detailed oriented, that's a good one. This one is really powerful. I tried to use this, and I found I don't have the time to learn this because it's so powerful. It's like a raw database thing, and you can create whatever you want. There's tons of templates out here. Like I got this free template from this guy that tracks his YouTube video stuff, and you can get really creative in here. You can do different boards, different ideas, calendar, when he's publishing, all of this sort of stuff. But it's not for the lighthearted. It is a powerful thing. You can use it for so many different components. And I'm not going to spend any time going through with you because you really need to figure out how you want to set it up. And there's tons of YouTube videos. This guy here where this template came from, I think his name is Thomas Franks. If you're going to use this, go watch his videos, subscribe to his channel. He'll help you out. He's got lots of information in this. But me personally, I tried this out and it was like, I kind of started going down a rabbit hole, and I went, okay, this is sucking up too much time to set up. I need something quick and easy, and so I abandoned my shot for that. But if I was wanting to spend the time, and I had the mindset, I would actually use that as another option. So those are the four. Excel, I wouldn't use. I would definitely use OneNote. And if you feel inclined and have the same inkling as I do, Mind Manager is another option for you. All right. All right, so let's dive into the next piece here. The next part here, let's go back into ACT. Now, this is a really important part, and that is setting up groups. Groups are the lists that are going to be sent to when you go to send out to your client base. And so you want to have these groups all set up, because when you go to create your campaign, that's what you're going to select from. You're going to select they call it a list, but it's actually a group that you're going to send to. These are your target audiences. So start off with something basic, like my clients. Who are my clients? And I'm going to send off stuff to my clients. So I've got one here, client email list, and there's nothing in it. We're just going to add some stuff into it so you get the idea of what we should have in here. So we're going to go add. We're going to go edit criteria. And so the first thing, now in this database, it's called contact type. In yours, the default might be ID status. However you're flagging them. So I'm going to use contact type. And contact type, and I'm going to go in here and says equals to client, add to list. So how many do I have? I've got 60 clients. All right. So I want clients that have an email address. Okay, so let's go in here and choose email address. It's got to contain data. Means there's something in the field. May not be an email address, but there's something in the field. Let's see how many we got now. We're down to 45, so we lost a few. So we're down to 45. So we've got people who contains data and equals to that. Now, if you've got the archiver, if you've got the latest version of the advisor, version 24 of the advisor, you've got the archiver because it comes with it. It's free. If you're a financial advisor. If you're not a financial advisor, You can pick up the archiver. I can't remember how much it is. You can go to our website. And what it does is it takes contacts that are in your database and hides them so that you don't see them. They're still in your database, but you don't see them. And so what you want to make sure is you're not sending email to people who are hidden. So what we want to do is we're going to choose the archive field, archive, and we're going to make sure that that is false, meaning it's not checked off. Add to that. So let's see how many we got now. We're down to 39 because there was a few that were archived. All right. So then you could take it a little step further. We don't have the field in there, but you could go in there and say email status is active or doesn't have this or what have you. Remember those fields we had that we added in? That's where you can actually use those. Those fields were, let me just pull up my list here. Castle consent, Castle source, email status, and email verification. So we can use those fields as well. But I'm going to first of all just use in Castle, and I've just got mine, CAS. I'm just going to use Castle. I don't have Castle, so I didn't name it Castle source like I would recommend you doing that. And let's just say Castle source does not contain opt-out. So it could be blank or opt-in, but it can't be opt-out. Add to list. We're down to 36 because there was a couple of opt-outs. So you can see how this works. And then once you get this kind of all refined, and you could use email status when you've got that, saying does not contain bounced or does not contain unsubscribed or something to that effect, then we're good to go. So once you've got that done, you press OK. You press OK. And now we have our target list. But you need to make sure that for whatever campaigns you're using, and maybe there's subsets of this, maybe there are people that live in, you could filter this down by geographic areas. I only am sending to people in Canada, or I'm sending to people in the US, or sending to people in Western Canada, BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan. We'll squeeze Manitoba in there too. So you could kind of mess around with that as well. So you choose how you want to set your list up, but just make sure you're using fields. Like in this case, I've got clients that have email addresses that are not archived and have not opted out. Very simple. And I could also add in here, I'm just going to add in, if I had status, I would choose the status field and I would do the same thing, does not contains bounced or unsubscribed to that effect. So we'll edit this once we go to our next step, which is cleaning up your database. All right, so let's go through. And we're now going to clean up the database. Now that you know how to create the group, we're going to scrub the database. So the first we're going to do is you're going to get a link to download Campaign Manager. If you don't already have it, you're getting this for free. You're going to get a copy of this that you can use. So Campaign Manager is going to set this up. Now, when you install Campaign Manager, it's got a couple of components in here. One is under Tools, it adds this email verification, which links to Bright Verify. And I recommend Bright Verify because they're the simplest, easiest, and yeah, I don't need that alert. And it's the simplest and easiest to use. So when we go in to set up email verification, there's a settings here. And you're going to need to have what field is this going to, and what's the API key. The API key is the link that will bring the two together. If we didn't do this, what you would have to do is take this group that we just created, you'd have to export them out, import them into Bright Verify or one of its challenging, or I wouldn't say competitors, I would say, one of the competitor products, but I do like Bright Verify. There's another one called Unbounced. They have that same component in there as well. And there's a few others. But you'd have to take your list, export it out, import it into Bright Verify, run it, get the results, export it out, import it back into ACT. Now, that's just way too much work for me. So I had Matt build this little tool so we do that. So what we want to do is go in and create a Bright Verify account. So I'm just going to log into mine. And accept all cookies, sure. And why am I here? I don't know how I got to this one. I had this saved. All right. In worst case scenario, we're going to go to Google. Somehow this happens when you're live. And let's go to Google. And we're just going to type in Bright. I'll send you the link. There it is there. It should take you to this page. Now we can sign in. Welcome back. Say goodbye to bad data. I guess I was at the right place. It just wanted me to sign in. I'd never seen that page before. Usually it takes me right in. All right, so you can see that I've messed around. I've done a few tests over the bit. I haven't done anything lately for tests. But in here, you'll get to here. Now, you'll have to set this up. Once you set this up, you'll have to set it up to auto, what's the word I'm looking for? Auto update your account when you run out of money. So you can buy a certain amount of credits. They call them credits. I think it's less than a penny per check. And then you buy credits. But you want to have it to auto refill that. If you have the auto refill off, you can't use the API key. Don't know why. Never used to be like that. They just changed that. So have it autofill, and then you can go into the API key. Oh, hang on here. And what you're going to do is you're going to copy your API key from here and close that down. And close that down. And then you're going to get to Act. You're going to copy that API key. And what you're going to do is you're going to go over to settings, tools. And we're going to go to verification, settings, and you're going to paste that right there. And you're going to, this is going to be blank. So you're going to choose, once you've set up the email verification field, you're going to go over and put that in. If you don't have an email verification field, you can create one or whatever you want to call it. I recommend email verification. Create the field. You can add it to the layout later and then press OK. And now you're ready to go. So before we go into the other stuff with campaign results, which is part of Campaign Manager, I'm just going to go over here to our list. So we're going to go to our group. There's our client list. I'm going to just look them up. So there's the 35. I'm going to add the field email verification, and I'm going to move it up under title. All right. So there it is there. So it's blank right now. So what we're going to do, just to show you how easy this is, I'm going to go to Tools, Email Verification, Verify with Bright Verify. I can do a current contact. So if I just want to do one person, I can do it. I can do a lookup, or I can do all contacts. I'm going to do current lookup. Now, you could do the whole database. However, if you're going to do the whole database, it's going to cost you for the whole database. So I just recommend, once you create a group that you're going to send to, check the group out. And you could periodically check the same group, like once a year, maybe check the group to see if it's still, everything is all valid. Totally up to you. But you can see there, it's adding stuff in as it's going down. So this just saved me exporting out, importing into Bright Verify, running it, exporting it out of Bright Verify, and importing it in back into Act. I've just saved a bunch of time doing that. So I can see a bunch of invalids. I can see a bunch of unknowns. Um, and I see some accept alls. I don't have a lot of valids in this because these are these are um, just fictitious email addresses, right? A lot of them. So we're not going to use this, but I would use this then in my group list, and we'll do it just for the sake of argument here. Um, there's two types that you're going to want to make sure you have. Um, the first one is to make sure that you've got accept all is fine and obviously valid. Do I have a valid? Yes, I have a valid. But unknown and invalid, I wouldn't recommend those. And then you could also have bounced in there as well. But the ones that I would actually send to would be valid and accept all. Accept all is kind of just a general term that yes, the domain exists, but it didn't validate just because of the way they have the security set up. It doesn't validate the individual. You won't know until you actually send them an email whether it bounces or not. So that's not bad. But unknown, that can be they just don't know. So that one's a little bit more risky to send out to an unknown than it is to an accept all or a valid. So what I would do then is go to groups, and we'll just do it in here just for testing sakes here. I'm going to go over here to email verification, and I'm going to say, let's see here. We're going to say does not contain or contains. Yeah, let's just say contains. Now this one won't pull up the drop down, so you actually have to have the names correct. So let's just say contains valid. And I think it's a lowercase v, but that shouldn't matter. Add to list, preview. I'm sure I had a valid in there. There we go. Oh, see, it's got the word valid. So we can't use the word contains because it's brought in invalid. See that? So you have to be careful there. Let's bring this back up and says equals to. Oops. All right. So we got two. And then we could also add in another one if we wanted to have the valid and the accept all. We would add that in as well. So let's just add to the list. Email verification. So this is part of your scrubbing your database, getting it ready to go, and equals to. I think that's how they did that. And now when I go preview, it's going to go 0 because if you're going to use the same field twice, you need to put brackets around it. And you need to change and to or. I think I've got accept all spelt wrong on how they used it. Let's go through and we'll just leave it like that. You get the idea. So you want to narrow this down. Now this just shows after I've done my validation, this is all I can send to is these two people. Actually, there's more than that, but I spelled accept all wrong. Or how they've got it configured. Anyways, that's it for the scrubbing part of the database. Now let's go over to Campaign Manager. Now, Campaign Manager or Campaign Results here. Any questions, Jared, on scrubbing the database, like using Bright Verify to clean the database up? And this is important.
We don't have any. Yeah, we don't have any questions in the chat or on it. Yeah, no, but it seems like a powerful tool just to save you a bunch of time
Yeah.
verifying if you know their actual real email address that you have there for someone.
Yeah.
So you
And
can,
the key here too with all of this is that you need to, this is the foundation work that you need to do just to do it properly. There's too many people that just shoot from the hip and they get a list and they send it off. If you're purchasing lists, okay, fine. As long as they've opted in, then go ahead and send them out. But you'll still want to validate the email addresses and stuff like that. Make sure your database is clean. Um, so we've got let's see here. So the last thing I want to show you here, and then we'll open it up for some questions. Campaign results. So I have not sent any campaigns out through this database. This is a brand new demo database that I created. So I've not sent any campaigns out, but let me show you what this would look like. Let me just grab my, wrong one. Hang on here. I just got to pull it up. Projects AMA work group. Okay, here we go. So the one I wanted to show you was this one right here. All right, so this is what it would look like if I had some data in there. So you can see here, it would list the campaigns based on the date that you sent them out. It's going to give you a graph in the center of showing you how many were sent to, how many opened, how many clicked. Now a click means they clicked on something in there, a hyperlink in there. So they click, what did they click onto? It'll show you how many people unsubscribed. And this is where the status field comes into place. And we're going to show you how to configure that in a second. If they unsubscribed or bounced, this is part of the ACT marketing automation or the ACT marketing automation. And we're going to take that information in a second here and we're going to push that up into ACT fields because this is a hidden table inside of ACT that gives you this information. So the information, it tracks it up in the cloud in the ACT marketing automation, pulls that database down or that information into a table into ACT, but it doesn't really show it anywhere. So that's why we built this, because now we can actually see really quickly what it is we've sent out when we can see this information. So the unbounced and the unsubscribed, that information is going to go into an ACT field that we can also parse from our list and knock it down as well. And so, and then over on the right-hand side, it'll show you what was sent out, and then it's going to show you a list of all the people so you can actually see, you can actually see how many opens, how many clicks, and you can actually see, you know, the date that it was sent out. And there's more stuff down the right-hand side. You can dump that list out into Excel, and you can also, on the top left-hand side there, let me just, I've got the overlay there, so let me just see if I can show you. Where's my arrow? There it is, my arrow. And let's bring that to the top. There we are. There's my arrow. So right here, you've got an export to Excel. You've got, this changes your columns. So you've got a bunch of stuff that you can add across here. Again, here's your information for your campaign, your unsubscribed, bounce, complaints, all of that sort of stuff up here, and the date sent to, who was the sender, and what was the subject line. And so this gives you a lot of good information. But what we're going to do is up on the right-hand corner, there's a little gear of settings, which we're going to go into now, so we can set this information up, which is really important to capture this information and get it into an ACT field. All right, so let me just hide this and hide that. All right, so up on the top right-hand corner, you'll see settings. So we click on settings. So if someone unsubscribes, you don't see it in an ACT field. It doesn't happen. It would be in the campaign results that you'd have to go in and search those people out. But I want to have it in an ACT field so that I can, in my groups, I can use that and say, hey, if this field is filled in by bounced or unsubscribed, take them off the list, right? So we want to make sure that that's working. So first of all, let's say unsubscribe. Well, what field do we want to have that? Well, I want to call that email status. So let's just see if we have that in here. And I purposely didn't put that in because I wanted to show you how this works. So no, it's not in there. So I'm going to click on create field, email status, create. It'll lock the database temporarily. So this might boot some people out. So for those of you who have a bunch of people in your thing, you might want to do this one at the end of the day because it's going to lock the database. And you'll see up top here, it says locked while it's creating it. If there are people logged in, it's going to pop them up and you'll have to kick them out. So choose when you want to do this. I'm not sure how long this takes because I've always created the field manually. It was successfully created. Press OK. And so now we've got email status. So what do we want it to say when they unsubscribe? Well, I might as well use the same terminology that I'm using in my drop-down list. So I'm going to go opt out. So that's what it's going to say if they unsubscribe. Now, if they bounce, I'm going to use the same field, and here's the reason why. If it bounced, they won't have the ability to unsubscribe, and if they unsubscribe, it's not going to bounce. So I can use the same field for both updates. So I'm going to just use email status. There it is now, and I'm just going to put in here bounced. So if it bounced, it's going to put that in there. I press OK. And now what will happen is when I send out an email campaign, and let's just go back to my picture here. So if I get some unsubscribes and I get some bounces, like I get these 10 bounces where I would not know who bounced, I can actually have that go into a field now, into the email status field. And then what that's going to do, not only can I, on my campaign list, my client list, I can remove them out there, but I can create a group that says, show me the ones unbounced. So then now I can actually go in and find out where they're at. Let me show you quickly. We still have a few minutes left here, and then we'll open it up to questions. So let me hide those. And let's go over to groups. Now we're going to actually pick a few people here. And we're just going to go into, I'm going to add, I don't want to add that to the layout right now. So we're just going to go into email status right now and just add it here. Under business phone, email status. I'm just going to go into edit mode really quickly. And I'm just going to flag a few that say bounced. Highlight that. So this, you're not going to manually key this information in because this is going to get filled in as campaigns go out. And I'll just pick one more. All right. So how this would work, oops, let me uncheck this first. There we are. How this would work, we go into groups. And so I've got a bounced group here. There's nothing in it. So I'm going to click on my add remove, go up here. I'm going to go to email status. Contains bounced. Preview. Now, I can also have one for opt-out under email status. And so under that same list, I could do the same thing, go back to my contacts, and I could go in here and we'll edit this. And we'll just add that in to a few places and take off my edit mode, go back into my groups, go to my opt-out, add remove, and go over here to email status. And contains opt out, add to list, preview. So now what I can do is I can go in here and say, okay, who opted out? I can call them up. Say, you don't want to get. Do you want to get something else? Do you want not want to have access to these updates and stuff, or what have you? I can call them. And same with the unbounced. I can say, or the bounced. I can say, hey, did your email address change? Maybe they moved. Maybe they don't belong at that company any longer. And so that gives me the opportunity to get a hold of them and clean that up. So this is all part of cleaning up the database by pulling this stuff in. Jared, any questions that I've covered so far? I've covered everything that I want. Let's open it up to any questions relevant to what I've just covered. Next week, we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of the actual marketing automation stuff. But this is a precursor to it. This is really important stuff that you want to make sure you have kind of set up. They're going to send you some documents that go with this that you can read. And don't get overwhelmed. I guess that's the biggest thing. I don't want you to get overwhelmed, but I want you to think about a little bit of planning goes a long way with this. And just carve off a Friday afternoon and say, hey, I'm going to spend the next hour. I'm going to do a little bit of a plan of what I want to do. I'm going to, install this free app that I got. I'm going to clean up the database and just kind of get myself organized so that I can run this. And have an assistant do that if you don't want to do it or don't have the time to do it. Have somebody else show them what to do and let them take care of that for you. Any questions, Jared? Comments?
No, we don't have any new questions on the stuff you just covered. So
Okay.
it's all quiet.
All quiet in the front. Well,
all quiet at the end.
Yeah, just hey, just in the comments area, is this been helpful? Just type the word helpful or not helpful if you don't think this has been helpful. But this is, and maybe some of you already know this because I've spent some time with you and gone through some of this. But again, this is an important precursor, and this is for those, because I know there's people on here that are just running basic. They've never run it before. They need to have this foundation. So we've got people that are experts in it. And then we've got people that are just beginners in here, so we want to make sure we cover everything. We're gonna be starting to get more complex into once we start working with the templates. We're gonna get into every little aspect of that in our next session, and we've got lots of stuff. But this is kind of you really need to have this part. So any questions, any comments? I'm just looking over here.
No, one question I could ask is, do you usually, when you were doing this webinar, Gary, you had done some test stuff you could send campaigns to. Do you do that every time you're going to do a new campaign, send it to some test people first, or do you just usually do that where you send it to those test Gmail emails at the beginning when you're just learning how to do this and set this up properly?
So when we get into, that's a good question, Jared. When we set up email campaigns, you can actually send out test emails to yourself. And I usually do the one-offs there. Okay. Where I use that is if I was going to maybe I hadn't used landing pages before and I want to test out how the landing pages are working, I would use it for that maybe. When I initially set up a campaign, kind of getting my feet wet. So if I'm a new person learning it, definitely would send out some test campaigns just to get the feel of how things work. So definitely would use it for that. But these ones in that little test group there, I'll periodically use them. I definitely will have them in when I send out a campaign. I'll have somebody or maybe a few of the people from the test group I will put into the group. So I'm just going to show you while I've got you in here. Once you get a group set up, so say this is my test or my client list. One of the things I always do when I set up my list, I will also go in here and I will add in myself. So I'll go in here and add myself.
Oh, that way you see it when yourself.
So I'll see it come in, and then I'll have it also go to the. Let me just find some Gmail ones, my test ones. Where's the test one?
I think you had them at CLX something.
Yeah, there we are. So I'll send one to Richard and to Tanya. There's some So I'll send it to that. So I'll send up a couple. So I may have one that I'm going to check on a Gmail. I'm going to have also obviously one come through on my. I have one going to my Mac so that I'm pulling it off of my Mac screen. So I'll have one going to my Robolart account that I'll pull off my Mac. I'll have one go to my CoreLogix email account because I'm using hosted exchange, so I can just make sure that that nothing's acting funny on any of these different platforms. So I'll do that just to make sure everything comes through fine. So I always do that, and you'll probably notice, Jared, sometimes you'll get an email because I'll add you to that thing as well,
Yep.
right? You and the other guys. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll always use these upper parts. So you can see here, I've got these ones up here, and then these are the guys that that are based on how their fields are, will be either added or removed by this criteria. So that's how I always set mine up. But always add at least your name to this one up at the top, and then use your criteria down there. All right. Well, let's wrap up. So I think what we've covered today is, like I said, is a good foundation. You're going to get some homework. So in the homework, you'll get this tomorrow. It'll basically say, all right, here's some things to do between now and next Wednesday when we have our next session. And that'll be make sure ACT is up and running. Make sure you've got your DKIM record set up if you don't have that already. Some of you may already have that. Probably a lot of you have that already up because you've reached out to me, or at least I've mentioned it to you. But it's good to have in here. You'll want to make sure that you've got the fields so that you can capture the Castle consent, Castle subscribe. You want to have your email verification, email status, those sorts of fields that we'd have. And I've got a list and a document. This one document that I'm referring to here, I'll send that to you as well. So you'll have lots of stuff to get going and have everything you'll need to make this happen. So having said that, we look forward to seeing you next week. Good luck on working with this over this next week, just getting the data cleaned up. So just look forward to that email tomorrow. It'll have a bunch of stuff in there that you'll need access to. Download the campaign manager, set up yourself a Bright Verify account, and you should be good to go. This recording will be up later today. It'll show that it's up, but there's sometimes it had some glitches and stuff before it does its final stuff. So you'll want to check that out maybe later today, and it'll be back up. It should be up in the afternoon sometime. All right. Anyways, Jared, thanks for co-piloting, my friend, and everybody, all the best. We'll see you next week. If you have any questions, save them up. We can have them in the Q&A, or shoot an email off to myself or Jared at Jared's at customer.
You can do CSR at
CSR,
corelogix.ca or customer service at
Customer service.
corelogix.ca. Either one, either handle works for me.
I never emailed Jared, so
That's okay. It shows. No, I'm just joking.
All right, everyone. Have a good
you.
one. We'll talk to you next week.